Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today about something that's very dear to my heart, and that is Northwestern's homecoming. Some of you may not realize that we have a very active homecoming committee. We have 17 members that really work year-round in making homecoming a success. With that main committee then, there's a number of subcommittees that also work. We meet throughout the year on a periodical basis, and then once school starts, or just shortly before that, we'll meet every week up until the week of homecoming. We have a budget of about $23,000, and that budget primarily is funded from the sale of our homecoming buttons. And I'm anxious to see, I look around the room and see several of you wearing a button. I appreciate that. I have some buttons with me if you would like to buy one. And part of the reason for that, not only does it help support the many parts of our homecoming budget, but for you as a consumer, it's really a pretty great bargain. And I'll tell you a couple of things that we've added. If you look on those buttons, there's a number on the sleeve of the little rowdy. During the first quarter of the football game, we'll actually have a drawing for a number. The winner of that receives $500 in chamber bucks. This is the third year that we've done that. So it's a great incentive, one, to get a button, two, to be able to attend the first part of that game, and we will actually draw until we have a winner, and you do have to be present to win. But more importantly, the last few years, we have worked very closely with all of the merchants in Alva, and many of those merchants, and some of you are in the room today, offer discounts to somebody who wears a homecoming button. So in addition to the buttons, I have with me one of the little charts that will tell you what each of those merchants will give. You can take your $10 investment that you use for buying that homecoming button, and you can get that back really with one purchase from one of our local merchants. So it truly is a unique opportunity here in the community of Alva. I think our homecoming program and the way that we fund that through our button sales is one of the rarities that we have in really probably in the whole United States. A couple years ago, Karen Kane received a phone call from another state, somebody wanting to know how homecoming was funded and how we had such a successful program. Part of the uniqueness of our committee is it's about half and half Northwestern personnel and half volunteers from the community. So that's what makes this such a community family and such a community event. I might just spend a couple of minutes and talk a little bit about what's going on for homecoming, and I do have some posters if you would like one for yourself or for your business. Feel free to pick one up afterwards. But we try to add new things every year to try to make homecoming more attractive to those of us that attend every year, and then certainly as we have out-of-town alumni and friends and guests that come back. As always, Thursday night starts the Cinderella pageant. We had orientation this past Sunday for the local contestants that will be participating. Thursday night is the talent competition. Friday night is the pageant where we do the crowning of Miss Cinderella. Those girls compete for some scholarships while they're here, and it's a great opportunity for them to actually be on campus and experience Northwestern. Then, of course, Saturday is the fun-filled day, really from sunup until sundown. The Ranger Run starts that morning at 8 o'clock downtown. They're still taking entries for that. The parade, of course, starts at 10 o'clock. This year's parade marshal is Dr. Linda Stewart. Some of you may remember her. She worked at Northwestern for about 35 years. She taught speech, was the director of the theater and all of the theater students and all the plays that took place. So we have a very large contingent of former students that are coming back to see her. And then Kimberly Wiest, who's our current professor in the fine arts area, has been with the program for 15 years. So they're kind of promoting that as 50 years worth of theater at Northwestern, and they've used that as one of their campaigns to come back. So as you look down the schedule, you'll see a lot of activities that they've put together specifically this year for those former theater alumni and friends that are coming back. With the parade, then, we have all sorts of special attractions that go with that. We'll have activities that start at 9 o'clock that morning downtown for the children around the square, and then, of course, right at 10 o'clock, the parade itself will start. The alumni will be serving their lunch, as they normally do downtown on the square. We have several alumni band members that are coming back. They'll be performing at the game. This year, the game starts at 4 o'clock. We're playing East Central. We pushed it back an hour. So we encourage everybody to stick around and take part of that game. And then following that in the evening, there's some more theater performances that are going on. might just also mention, somebody had asked, in addition to the discounts that you get on those buttons, the button does give you admission into the 2 Cinderella events and into the game on Saturday. So we do have those same historical programs that we've had. Any questions? What I told Arden was I just wanted to hit on the highlights. I know many of you have been part of Northwestern's homecoming for years and years, and we appreciate that. But I thought I might just take an opportunity maybe to answer some questions. Yeah?
I thought I heard on the radio this morning, I may have misunderstood it, that it's like 16 queen contestants. That sounds less than normal.
For the Cinderella?
Yeah.
We're actually at 15, and that number is down. We were at 21 last year. A couple of things I think are impacting that. I was chair back in the 90s of homecoming, and we have always limited the pageant to 36 contestants. And there were some years that we were worried that we would have a 37th person actually fill out an application and make a submission. As you look at what's happened in Northwest Oklahoma, we've had some school consolidations. Many of the schools have smaller classes. I think with homecoming being a little bit earlier this year, I think there's just a number of factors that went into that. The committee, the Cinderella committee, has worked very hard to make sure that every school was aware of the opportunities for that. So I don't think we're in necessarily a trend of it being that low of a number, but you are correct. It's one of the lower numbers we've had in a few years. So, yes?
How many bands are you expecting besides Northwestern?
I think last count we had, and we won't have a lot of those until the very end, around 7 or 8 I think have already committed to coming. We don't have competition this year from some other surrounding band parades or other homecomings, so that does usually help us on a positive year.
Still a judged event as far as Oklahoma Secondary Schools?
Yeah. So, question? Yes?
How many, where are the queens come from the victory of the Cinderella contest? Kansas can be included in that.
We primarily look...
Is there a limitation on how geographic, how far they can be, or anybody wants to run?
We're pretty open to that. You know, we try to look at our service area for the university, which would be the northwest part of Oklahoma, southern Kansas, the Texas Panhandle. We've had some schools that have reached out a little further than that, and we, to my knowledge, at least in the last 10 years, we haven't turned away any of those girls that wanted to participate in that. A couple of reasons. One, it exposes them to Northwestern, which is part of what that pageant's designed for. And second, then, it brings typically parents, grandparents, family, friends to Alva and to those 2 nights worth of activities. So we kind of look at it as a win-win opportunity for those girls.
Has there been a Miss Perry's in Texas here? Guyman coming?
They have in the past. And a lot of that depends on the interest of the girls in the senior at the high school that are seniors. They do have to be a senior. They can't be a junior. Some years you have lots of interest from the local schools, and some years you don't have any girls that are interested in competing at the local level. Arden.
Knowing Alan as I do, I thought maybe he was going to ask if they had ever been a Miss Avon.
Well,
Not to my knowledge. However, could have been years ago.
David, I'm going to say it if I may. A few years ago, we had what was called the Big Show. How many of you in here remember the Big Show? Okay, well, I had started a one-man movement to have the Big Show reinstated. And then after doing the research, I found out that it was more than a one-man job. But what the homecoming committee actually is considering, or at least I got the feeling from my appearance before them, that they might be interested in a big show once we have our new arena. The way it is now, the Bristol Fieldhouse has to compete with the girls volleyball team at homecoming, and the Alva Rec Center building is really not up to that capacity seating-wise, and so maybe when we get our new arena, we'll revisit that, and we had some big name entertainment here. Whether we can afford big name entertainment anymore, but it might be a possibility.
Yeah, as you talk back and look back at some of the historians that remember homecoming from decades ago, there's been lots of different things that have been tried, and some things have run their cycles, and then some things we can bring back and add to that. And kind of what we visited with Arden about was that I think our committee's open to anything. Of course, cost is always an impactful piece of that, what it would take to secure a venue and promote it, bring in the level of talent that you would want for something like that. So there's lots. To me, I look at everything as an opportunity.
Like Arden said, the big show was one of the big events. Honky was the only years I was growing up.
Yeah.
That's, like I said, it's a big game field, really.
That's before TV. Wasn't no competition.
Mac.
Are the Queen candidates sponsored by their schools, or are they individual? I want to apply for the contest and I do it.
No, they have to be from their local high school, and we can only have one contestant from each of the area high schools. So, and then each high school has kind of their own process of doing. Most of them have local pageants. Well, they'll compete, and then the winner will have the opportunity to come up to the Cinderella pageant. But we can't have more than one competitor from a school.
And that senior class, that's pretty much cut in stone.
That is correct. Yeah.
Well, I was kind of wanting to nominate Reese Mossberg, but she'd be a little young.
Give her a few years, and we'll work on her to be in the pageant. Yes.
How long has this Cinderella pageant been going on?
Oh, I have that somewhere. We're close to 60 years, maybe 65 years.
Ask Alan, he's been around long enough.
I think the reason I say that they've talked about, they try to recognize those multiple year intervals. I'll find out, and when it's a big one, we'll
How many
promote
years
it.
has a Miss Oklahoma or something like that come out of this Queen contest?
The Cinderella pageant is not sanctioned by Miss Oklahoma.
No, but I mean, some of the people have been.
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
absolutely, yeah.
Have become Miss Oklahoma.
Jane Giroux certainly did. She was one of them. I think we've had maybe some other
I think so.
Cinderella contestants, that went on and competed at either Miss Northwestern or one of the sanctioned pageants, yeah. You'd probably, on all the Cinderella questions, I probably need to have my Cinderella folks here. I don't know all that history, but that's a good question. I can't, I'm not up on all the history. Yeah.
The other schools that are nearby,
Uh-huh.
can you name any of them that are not sending candidates this year?
You know, I did not bring that list with me, and it varies. I mean, we've periodically gone with some local schools in the area, within a 50-mile radius that just for one reason or another didn't have a contestant that was interested or a class of senior girls that wanted to compete. So it doesn't really concern me that one school for a year misses a year. And part of what we try to ask Miss Cinderella to do is to help promote that. We've actually talked about taking the last couple of winners that we have at the university and letting them kind of do some publicity out in those area high schools to the juniors right now to get them motivated for next year, their senior year. Because we look at that as a big recruiting piece at the university. Mac.
Did you mention how many bands from outside high schools are coming in this year?
Well, no. Well, they typically come in at the very end. I think we have 6 right now that are coming. But that number, I bet, will go up.
Is your budget big enough to bribe city officials to put down a new layer of blacktop or something around the square for those band marchers who are going to be stepping in some very large holes and
And then
they twist an ankle or break a leg or something? And
I'll let you contact the city council members.
I'd get a hold of somebody and see if we can't get some city work done.
Or,
I think you should blame the previous administration.
Well, there's an easy way to do that. Send the animals first.
There you go.
oh, the animals, I can assure you on the parade, the animals will still be at the back of the parade. Yes, that part of the parade will not change.
Don't have to worry about knocking the shop.
Any final questions from anybody? Well, again, like I said in the beginning, we so much appreciate the support of everybody in this room. If you're needing buttons, you're needing some posters, I'll stick around for a few minutes afterwards and be happy to visit with you. Thank you again.